Comics.
Because they have no home.
I'm Joe Getcho.
And I'm Mike White, and this is the Clean Comic Book Podcast. We like comics because they have a rip-roaring good time.
Oh, yeah, Consarn
it. No bones. Find us on social media at Boneless Comics Podcast or on Blue Sky Social or X at Boneless Comics 1. And use the hashtag Boneless Comics Podcast to join the gol'durn conversation and share your thoughts.
And me and the main man here for our boneless review today is part 2 of our DC meets Looney Tunes crossover event. And the reason that we're talking like this is not because we are weird. No, it is because we're weird. But also because first story of part 2 is Jonah Hex and Yosemite Sam, which was written by Jimmy Palmiotti with pencils by Mark Texeira. Texeira?
I think it's Texeira. I think it's Texeira.
Yes, exactly. But Yosemite Sam strikes some gold, but his partners, being the traitors they are, turn on him. But Sam gets the last laugh, mowing them all down. Then out of nowhere, he spots a damsel in distress who needs help. He rescues a big feathered guy, and wouldn't you know, it's none other than Foghorn Leghorn. I say it is. It turns out that he's a pugilist from Italy, and he invites Sam to watch him spar. But then Jonah Hex shows up to turn in a bounty, and Sam decides to hire him for protection to watch his back while he collects the rest of the gold. He punches a girl in the face for yapping about his business, and then Sam and Jonah head to Foghorn's boxing match where he totally KOs his opponent. I say he did. But then he gets totally wrecked by Bill Weasel from the Bronx, costing his handler some serious cash. But as he's bleeding out, Foghorn overhears one of his handlers. The henchmen say they've located Sam and Hex. But Foghorn somehow picks himself off the ground and makes it to where Sam and Hex are staying first to warn them that, hey, these guys are coming to steal your gold. I say they are coming to steal your gold. So then we get about 4 pages of brutal fighting, but Hex and Sam manage to basically take out all the henchmen while Foghorn takes out his old handler. Sam and Foghorn take Hex to the Anthony Hotel so a nurse can nurse him back to health. Hello, nurse! It's one of those Animaniacs moments. But then Hex simply collects his fee and rides into the sunset. Like literally, it's a cowboy thing. Like he rides into the sunset because he's like...
You have to do that.
That's just what you do. So this was another one where there was a particular way of speaking for the main character. Did you think that translated well into a comic book? Or, another way to ask this question would be, Consarn it, did you varmints reckon this here Yosemite Sam yakking cross came proper in one of them dadgum funny books? What?
Honestly?
What?
I loved it because... I have read a lot of Jonah Hex comics, and this is a writer, Jimmy Palmiotti by himself. He and Amanda Connor are married, by the way, so they usually work together on Harley Quinn and other projects, but he's been the solo writer for Jonah Hex for, I don't know, as long as I can remember. Whenever there's an all-star Western book, it's Palmiotti writing it. So usually they're very dark, and it's the New 52 angle was... we're watching the foundation of Gotham in the Old West, and it's like this old mining town, and all the things like the Court of Owls and all those things are being set up for the first time, and Jonah happens to be there in the middle of all that. The pre-Flashpoint Jonah Hex comics were more like, who's the serial killer that he's going to catch in the Old West this month? And what horrible, brutal murder is he going to have to commit to bring justice to this frontier town? Yikes. So having Yosemite Sam there, talking in his goofy, over-the-top way was really nice because it really lightened the story and made it, not so heavy. Although there was still plenty of violence. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is an interesting one because it's okay, take Yosemite Sam, Jonah Hex, and Foghorn Leghorn and write a serious Western. This seems like it would be really hard. But
Yeah.
playing into the Yosemite Sam being kind of the like goofy guy, but not like you don't take him seriously goofy, but kind of like the character, whereas Jonah Hex is more like the straight serious guy, really helps them play off of each other. But then you have Foghorn, who's kind of like in the middle. And it's interesting because I was like, he's a pugilist from Italy? What? Why? Because he likes to fight or something. But I did look up that Leghorn actually comes from the Leghorn chicken breed, originally Italian, and it's actually named Livorno in Italy. So Leghorn is the like anglicized form. So I guess he's from Italy because that brand of chicken's from Italy, and then he's a pugilist because Jonah Hex fights hand to hand, and so it just makes sense for the time period.
I have a picture of Foghorn doing something like this in some cartoon, but I don't know if he normally fist fights people or if that's just
more like a drunken
like some one-off thing that I have, drunken chicken boxing.
Drunken chicken, but not because you ate drunken chicken, but because you are a chicken that's drunk.
Exactly.
You don't wear a disguise to look like human guys. You are a chicken, and everyone knows you're a chicken, and it's just okay.
I liked the inclusion of Foghorn Leghorn because, having read other stuff with Jonah Hex, yes, you're reading a Western book, but it's still set in the DC universe. So he might run into Nighthawk and Cinnamon, who happen to be Hawkman and Hawkgirl later. Or he might run into some precursor of the Man-Bat serum or something like that. Like, there's still going to be those like heightened elements. So it was funnier that it seemed like Yosemite Sam had a bigger reaction to Foghorn Leghorn. He's like, "What in tarnation are you?" Whereas Jonah Hex just seemed to like accept it, like,
he's
it's a giant chicken man.
Blah blah blah. He's like, "No, but not who are you, but what are you?" He kept interrupting him, like, "No, what? But why are you a chicken?"
But it was funny because Yosemite Sam is that character in all the Looney Tunes stuff that is always 2 seconds away from just blowing his top, and so that personality trait carried over really well, and it actually fit for this kind of story because it opens with he's going into the mines, he's struck gold, and all of his buddies are like, "Hey, we'd only have to split it 3 ways if we killed Yosemite Sam." And then of course he gets to, like, they keep putting him in situations where he has a chance to like lose his mind and start ranting, which is the character. So I felt like it worked perfectly well.
Yeah, like after reading this, I was kind of like, I almost want to read some more. Like, I kind of wish they'd do some more with this, because they had such an interesting dynamic that it was kind of fun. And like, if they actually, created a whole story arc for them, could be kind of interesting. It's almost like the Three Musketeers, but it's, Foghorn Leghorn, Yosemite Sam, and Jonah Hex. Like, okay, weird, but it just, I don't know, it kind of worked. Maybe it was the Western setting that really helped bind everything together.
Yeah, it would. It's so strange because when you say it out loud, it sounds like you've lost your mind. Like, yeah, Foghorn Leghorn in like an old Western comic, but yeah, they just, the way it was written and the way Mark Texeira drew it too, it was so it all looked like it was part of the same world, even the giant chicken man, because he's, unlike the cartoon, he's actually like dressed. He has like a Western outfit on and his spurs and everything. And so he felt like he kind of fit in as well. But yeah, it actually felt really cohesive. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, this one was fun. Anything else on this one?
Well, I was a little surprised. I was surprised and I wasn't at how violent it got, because there is a lot of blood in this one. Like, Foghorn Leghorn gets beat half to death by Bill the Weasel. And I looked him up because I was like, that's gotta be something. That's gotta be some character. Apparently there's some Weasel character that's appeared in some Foghorn Leghorn shorts named Billy the Weasel. So, but they gave him the face of that, whoever that guy is that they're always caricaturing in Looney Tunes. I don't know who that guy is, but the guy that talks like this, it was that guy's face on the boxer. So I don't know what that comes from or what that guy did.
Let us know in the comments.
Made fun of in Looney Tunes shorts. But yeah, I was a little shocked by the violence, but like you said, it all felt like it was part of the world, so it worked. Yeah. Next, we have one of the most unlikely pairs of all, Lex Luthor and Porky Pig. This is written by Mark Russell with pencils by Brad Walker. Brad Walker is one of my favorite pencilers, and this was a really, really bizarre assignment for him. So good job,
Good job.
editorial. I don't know. So after losing all of his money in a cryptocurrency scheme, Porky Pig was ready to end it all. But a chance meeting at his work, the Garlic Dungeon, introduced him to Lex Luthor. Wasting no time, Luthor puts Porky in charge of his new social media platform, Lexima, which sounds like eczema.
Yeah.
Targeted as a place that would accept any who were booted off other social media platforms, Lex soon started to monetize by having users, including customers of Dr. Ivo and Dr. Savannah, order their prescriptions through it. Meanwhile, their anything goes policy allowed a troll into a live presentation by Lex, who we later find out is Daffy Duck. And a string of lunch thefts began to strike the workers of Lexima. Porky was determined to find the thief, but nothing worked. An alarm system, a black-white light, and even stain powder didn't reveal the thief. Badia, I can't get through this synopsis. So finally, Lex reveals his master plan to obtain the passwords, health records, finances, and lives of all the Lexima subscribers. Sadly, the lunch thief became known as well as Lex Luthor himself. But feeling that he couldn't stand up to Lex, Porky fires Hector, the janitor, for the lunch thefts instead. Seemingly rewarding Porky's loyalty, Lex promotes Porky to Vice President of Online Operations, or VPOO, at LexCorp. But Porky knows that he's sold out. When Lex's backdoor stealing customer information becomes public, Lex blames Porky and his risk-taking ways. And Porky goes to jail for Lex's invasions of privacy, but vows to tell his story. And that is the dark, downer place where this one ends.
Yeah. What a pigsty this one was.
Yeah, so, I mean, the obvious question, and I'm sure you were thinking it too, is did the subject matter feel a little too serious and dark for Looney Tunes crossover? Because I certainly felt like it did.
It's like they leaned a little too hard into the door salesman trope, and they took away what was funny, and they kind of just made the scheme that didn't work and backfired and all the like negative parts of it. But it didn't seem like there was any like fun angle to it that kept it light. It was all about the, and it's Lex Luthor, so of course that's kind of what he's about. But usually you have another character, kind of like we did with Jonah Hex or any of the other reviews we've done. Is like if you have too many characters that are too serious, you need to find ones that are less serious to kind of balance things out. But Porky Pig didn't really kind of end up making things less serious, and there's so much seriousness together.
Well, so it's funny because Tom King is known, and he was the writer of the Batman Elmer Fudd one that we were like, it towed the line really nicely. It was funny, but it felt grounded. He clearly understood that there was some inherent humor in these characters. He is somebody that usually writes really serious, dark stories, and I would have expected something like this out of him instead of this guy, Mark Russell. So I'm very surprised by this. But I think there was a lot of missed opportunities to just have Lex sort of rolling his eyes while maybe Porky is trying to stack a gigantic stack of papers and drops them all over the office, or, is knocking over the coffee maker, or, some kind of the slapstick Looney Tunes humor that they could have put that in an office environment with Lex Luthor and had him be his employee, but make him like more bumbling and make there be some comedy to it. Instead, it was just like, the first page, he's contemplating killing himself, and he's like, but I couldn't even do that. And I'm like, geez, like, is this what we wanted to do? Like, see Petunia leave him and all this stuff in the first couple pages? Like, I was pretty much out right away because I was just like, this doesn't feel like a Looney Tunes story anymore.
I think it would have been funnier, like you said, that he was bumbling. Maybe he gets like an internship or something, and so he's the typical
Yeah.
intern who's like, making all kinds of mistakes. Or maybe go with the, the witch angle where they're like, hey, let's play a prank on Lex Luthor by casting a spell on him that makes him hire this Porky Pig as his second in command, his right-hand man. And so you have Lex that's like, I believe in this guy and he is going to take us places. And Porky's just like picking his nose or something, like, what are you what are you trying to say, boss? Just like being goofy. And Lex is like, isn't he great? And everybody's like, huh? That would have been like a fun way to keep Lex serious because he's being tricked, or there's so many different ideas, I think, in this one that would have been less of a Debbie Downer.
Yeah, I mean, even to your intern idea, they could have had Porky slowly discover this conspiracy going on within LexCorp while he was working as an intern, or maybe he accidentally does something that bumbles his way to Lex meeting justice for his wrongs. Sort of like how Darkwing Duck does. He kind of like falls backwards into success. They could have done something like that here, and it would have been a lot more fun than what we ended up with, which was he starts at kind of a low point and he ends at an even lower point, I feel like. And it's just like, why am I reading this?
Yeah.
So I also thought Lex himself felt a little bit out of character because his plan is basically just to be Mark Zuckerberg. Like, that's it. You're just going to be like a Facebook guy.
That's it.
You're just going to be like a Facebook guy and steal people's information. Like, he's one of the smartest people on the planet. And like, that's his genius idea. Like, it seemed kind of underwhelming. So even like the DC Comics angle, I was like looking for something sci-fi or something, like maybe Lex has made a giant robot, something that's going to make it feel more like a DC Universe story. But you don't see Superman at all. In fact, the only other DC characters that you see are Dr. Savannah, who's one of Shazam's villains, and Dr. Ivo, who created Amazo. But in this, instead of being mad scientists, they're just like pharmaceutical guys that are selling their drugs to Lex. So I don't know. It was kind of like boring.
Yeah, they hit the realism angle a little too hard and made everybody a little too normal. And when we read a comic book, we don't want to read about normal people. We want to read about people who are heightened to some degree. And if we're reading DC comics, we want to read about people who are super, because it's about that.
Yes.
Like, another idea, right, is that, Lex is like, I've tried everything to take out Superman and I've been foiled at every turn. So maybe I'm missing something in my intellect. Maybe what I need to do is do something that no one would ever expect. And so he goes and he finds Porky Pig and says, I don't know how this is going to work, but I'm going to do something different than I've ever done before and work with this creature, or maybe he summons him through a portal or brings him into our dimension, or maybe it's a lab experiment or, something to where his motivation is, I'm going to take out Superman and this is how I'm going to do it. And it backfires because, Porky does his thing and, ends up the same way. But that would have been more fun than what we got.
Yeah. The other issues that we've covered have all had varying degrees of, hey, this is just kind of a fun little adventure with these characters and we're going to enjoy it for a few pages and then kind of move on to the next one. So they've had varying levels of depth. But I really think that's what this one is missing. I mean, if I were just going to rate this one by itself, it would probably be a pretty low rating. So it's fortunate then that it's part of a larger collection of comics that I think are of higher quality. I don't know that there's more we need to say about the tone of it, except that we didn't like it. One thing I do want to mention, though, is that I have put in the notes here a picture of the regular A cover for this comic, and it is absolute nightmare fuel. So I bought the variant cover for this as well because this doesn't keep me awake at night. It's a little bit better. So I remember even my local comic store owner at the time, Mike. I talked to him and he was like, I can't believe that somebody signed off on this cover. It looks horrifying. There is a Batman villain called Professor Pig, and that's what Porky looks like there. So yeah, not sure why we made that choice, but
see, that
definitely a choice.
That's what gave me the idea for like, Lex is like, there's some witchcraft or something that makes him think that this Porky guy is awesome when he's actually an idiot, because the way that Lex is looking at Porky is like, he's smiling like he's great. And Porky's like, I don't know what I'm doing, but yeah. And so I was like, it kind of looks to me like Lex is just like, I'm so proud of this guy. He's great. And Porky's like, I don't know what's happening. I'm just happy to be here. And, we're the audience going, what the heck is going on? If that was what actually happened in the comic and you put this as the cover, okay, that would have been more interesting. But with it being such kind of a depressing actual story, and then seeing this, it's like, this is that like childhood meme of like the meme of your childhood character who is now a photorealistic version who you're like, that's creepy. Like Homer Simpson, and he's just like, bleh. He looks like a monster.
If I was hiding in my closet, I would sleep in a different house.
I would burn the closet and leave and never look back. That was
very true. Well, anything else to say about that one?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. That one was not a high point.
No. So let's see if this is more or less of a high point. Lobo and Roadrunner, written by Bill Morrison with pencils by Kelly Jones. The Nevada desert, 1949. Acme Labs ditches mousetraps and starts splicing alien DNA because Roswell. But it's Area 52, not Area 51. A Dr. Caldwell swears nothing can go wrong, which is both cartoon and comic book code for everything goes wrong immediately, which it does. And the whole thing was masterminded by a huge, muscle-bound looking coyote, to which one of the scientists comments, man, that is one wily coyote. Insert laugh track.
Because of course.
Yeah. Free now. Free now, the coyote gets hungry and decides to chase a bird. For decades, he never catches it. But he's still jacked, so clearly hunger isn't an issue. I don't know. But anyway, he eventually gives up his chase and gets captured and imprisoned once again. But another one of the talking animals says that his boss wants to help the coyote escape and give him the means to take down the bird once and for all. Steal a rocket, meet Lobo, finish the bird. But the main man is already in the middle of a mission, so he'll only take out the bird if the coyote finishes his current bounty. They reach an accord. We have an accord. So then we get to watch Lobo as he gets lit on fire when his cigar meets a gas pump, crash head first into a petroleum truck, and at one point accidentally swallows a grenade, and even throws an A-bomb and blows himself to smithereens. But his head grows back. He gets back into solid form, and at one point he even brags about keeping his own series alive for 64 issues, 3 annuals, and a stack of miniseries. So I guess that's why. Meanwhile, back. Yes. Meanwhile, the coyote was sent to Oa to take out Kilowog, which of course he is totally outclassed to handle. But it turns out the bounty was an inside job by one of the other lanterns anyway, so they clear things up, and they even offer the coyote a spot in their training program, because apparently you can train to be a Green Lantern even if a ring doesn't choose you. I don't know. But the coyote anyway says, nah, I'm too old for new careers, and decides to head back to Earth. He calls off Lobo, hangs up the Super Genius Act, and announces his retirement. But then the Roadrunner comes by and knocks him over again, and he gets mad, and he's like, okay, fine. So in the last panel, he slips on a Green Lantern ring, and he's got this big grin on his face, and the caption says, that's all, Bastitches! Because Lobo's swearing is, this off weird kind of car. Yeah. But that's how he talks. So My first question on this is why was the coyote so obsessed with the roadrunner? Because we just see that he's like he's eating something and he sees this roadrunner and he's
Mhm.
like, that looks good to eat. And then it's like 40 years later or whatever, he's still chasing him. Like, is he that hungry?
I I don't know if there's a story reason so much as there's a meta reason because I did a little bit of research because I saw your question, and I guess 1949 was when the first Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner cartoon debuted, right?
Hmm.
So they had his creation in the comic be in 1949. And then the other dates that they gave throughout the decades, which was a montage, were actually references to specific
Oh,
cartoons where he was chasing the Roadrunner with various Acme products. So is it really just about food? I don't know. Apparently, the idea behind Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner was that they were supposed to be parodying cat and mouse chase cartoons like Tom and
oh.
Jerry, which had come before. But then it kind of just turned into its own thing with its own set of rules.
Hmm.
So I don't know that there's really a story reason. The meta reason is because they're trying to do nods to all these eras of animation throughout.
I mean, I
So
guess if they were trying to establish an origin story, that kind of helps make a little more sense. But I wish that they would have framed it that way because unless you go and
yeah,
look up those dates, I mean, nobody's probably going to remember the actual dates that, these things aired. So it would have been nice
sure.
to connect those dots for the reader. But the other thing about this story that kind of bugged me was the Green Lantern angle. I don't
Hmm.
know why did we need that? Because it seemed to me it was all about getting the Lobo to chase the Roadrunner. But
Sure.
then we have Wile E. Coyote who goes off to Oa and basically just he's done. Like he has no chance. It's
No,
completely
Kilowog
impossible. And
trounces him.
I don't know if that's just to show that, he always loses, but that was kind of not fair also to pit him up
Hmm.
against the Green Lanterns unarmed. Like if he would have gotten so mad at chasing the Roadrunner that he somehow got a Red Lantern ring, that would have been
Yeah.
interesting. But to see him go up against Kilowog, which really he never went up against, he didn't have a chance. It just to me seemed kind of weird. So I mean, what did that contribute something for you? Did you like it?
I don't know. It felt like they wanted a reason to take Wile E. Coyote off of Earth, so it would just be Lobo versus the Roadrunner. But I don't know why Wile E. Coyote couldn't just be standing there on the sidelines, watching while Lobo tries to take him out. But I will say that the Roadrunner seems to have the same superpowers as Domino in Marvel Comics, because
Yes.
the minute Lobo starts attacking him, things go horrifically wrong. I mean, his cigar getting lit on fire and then being linked to like a giant propane tanker that comes flying at him and explodes in his face. The atom bomb that
Yeah.
backfired on him, and he atomizes himself, which Lobo can regenerate from just a couple of atoms. So he does have that ability. That section of the story was the most fun part of it to me. I really felt like the stuff with Wile E. Coyote, it was interesting, but it made me go to the internet more than it made me like
Hmm.
enjoy that aspect of the story, because I was like, wait, was he genetically engineered? Is that the story? Is that why they're doing this? But I looked it up, and I guess in the old Looney Tunes cartoons, he is a super genius because he's a coyote that knows how to use machinery. And very occasionally he does talk, but for the most part, there's no other real backstory there. It's just like, got to
Yeah.
get the Roadrunner, and then that's our way into the slapstick comedy. But I felt like the slapstick comedy was by far the best part of this, and the rest of it, it was fine, but they didn't really need to explain that
Mhm.
much.
See,
So,
so this is where we're going to be different. I actually did not
oh,
like the slapstick comedy part. Um,
really?
and the reason why is because I felt like what we did was we just changed Coyote for Lobo, and it was the same story we've seen a
Mm,
bajillion times. And I think that kind of like you pointed out with the domino aspect, if we would have shelved the whole Green Lantern thing and used that
Sure.
time to build their backstory and maybe give Roadrunner officially those powers. Like, because we don't really know how he was engineered. We know that the Coyote is a super genius. We don't really know why he's like, super jacked. I mean, he's like huge, like he's in
Because
a
Kelly
powerlifting
Jones is drawing
competition.
him.
Yeah. But if they would have, I think for me anyway, if they would have explained it a little bit more and said, okay, the Roadrunner
Mhm.
has these powers, then maybe we could have used that to team up the Coyote and Lobo together, knowing that they're going to have a hard time because of this bad luck power, but maybe they actually do catch the Roadrunner. But then give us a way out of
Sure.
it of maybe the Roadrunner is so meta that it the bad luck powers, it's like they caught him, but because they caught him, he just escapes. And they find out that really
Yeah.
the answer is they can never catch him. It's just not, it's impossible. But then, you know, then Coyote can retire and all of that stuff. But then the story ends because at least at the end with
Right.
the Green Lantern ring, the idea is that now the next adventure is the Coyote with the Green Lantern ring. Does that give him an edge? And the
Mm.
story can just continue forever instead of, well, he caught the bird, he ate it, and yeah, we're done. There's nothing else to tell. So I think this one was kind of a
Yeah.
hard one to do because I wanted to see Lobo succeed, but I didn't want to see the Roadrunner get eaten. But I didn't want to see Lobo become Wile E. Coyote, where he's cartoonily getting blown up all the time. That just, for me, I was
Sure.
like, this seems like you just traded one for the other.
Yeah, I can see. I understand where you're coming from, where you're like, I wanted it to give me something I hadn't seen before. I think my enjoyment from this one came from seeing exactly what I expected from a Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner cartoon. When they hit all those slapstick notes perfectly, I was like, oh yeah, Lobo's the perfect character for this because he literally can't die. So they can ground it in the DC universe and put him through these situations and he'll survive it because
Right.
he's Lobo. So to me it was kind of justified by that, but I can understand where you're coming from where it's like, well, I was wanting them to take it somewhere unexpected and they really
Hmm.
didn't do that. I will agree with you that the Green Lantern side story didn't really add anything to it. I don't even think Kilowog says Poozer, which
Oh,
why are you
no, he
going to use him
didn't.
in a story if he doesn't say Poozer?
Oh,
So
that's wow. Yeah, if we were
it's a
rating
missed
this, I think that
opportunity.
alone would tank the score because Kilowog didn't say,
Right.
come on, Poozers.
Exactly.
Who's this Poozer that tried to have me killed? Just, they could have snuck it in there so easily. Or he sees a coyote. Who's this Poozer? But I
Yeah.
will agree with you that Lobo is the perfect person to replace the coyote. If like the coyote was like, you know what, I'm retiring, but someone else is going to chase after this bird, Lobo could take
Mhm.
over because without changing anything about him, you could make it fit the Looney Tunes where basically you can get stabbed or have a fall off a cliff or an anvil on your head or a piano or an atom bomb or whatever, and you'd come back from it in the cartoon world. Well, Lobo can do that in the real world. So that is a smart connection between the two.
Sure. I did like all throughout the story. Kelly Jones' art is very bizarre. It's very over muscled. It's very
Mm,
dark. And he's one of those artists that is very polarizing for comic book fans. But I one thing I liked was that I feel like he did sell the comedy of those moments, even though it was done in this like dark, kind of like edgy style. I still felt like the slapstick stuff worked. And the other element that I enjoyed just in the script writing was that they had the sort of subtitles that they would do in the in the Wile E. Coyote cartoons,
hmm.
like it would say Mercenaricus can't killicus or something under Lobo, or something like that, because they'll always have Wile E.
Uh,
Coyote and then it'll
it
say his
said
Latin name.
it said Basticius vulgaris,
Yeah, there you
and
go. That's
and the
perfect.
Roadrunner was something like Fragus impossibilitus, like freaking
Yeah.
impossible.
Yeah, I did like all of those little touches and attention to detail. I
Mm,
thought that was fun. So
yeah.
yeah.
The coyote talking was, I don't know, a little weird. I see
It's
why they did
weird
it.
because he doesn't really do that in the cartoon.
Yeah. So to hear him talk and be like, I am Wild E. Coyote, super genius. I was like, ooh, it's a little too mustache twirly villain for me, but okay.
It breaks some of the setup of the character, I guess. Yeah.
But
I would agree with
like
that.
his silence could have been he was trying to catch the Roadrunner not to eat him, but to let him know that his headlights were on, or something like that. Like, maybe you find out the Coyote's like not actually nefarious. He just can't talk. So he's trying to tell the Roadrunner, hey, stop, listen, I need to tell you something important. But,
right.
I don't know.
And he's been trying to tell him that with sticks of dynamite.
Yeah. It's important that you stop and listen to this or I'll blow you up.
I was going to write it in gunpowder for you so you could understand.
Burn it into your skull, literally.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe this was a hard one to do. I don't know. All right. So our last issue is Martian Manhunter and Marvin the Martian. This is written by Steve Orlando and Frank J. Barbier with pencils by Aaron Lopresti. And if you look over at Joe's side of the screen, we have John Jones over there, but he has no cape, it looks like. What happened to his
he's
cape?
Capeless. No
He's
capes.
going, no capes.
No capes.
Well, maybe that's for the best. I don't know. So Martian Manhunter and Marvin the Martian, written by Steve Orlando and Frank J. Barbier, with pencils by Aaron Lopresti. We have a beautiful John Jones there, which is almost the same color as your Green Arrow shirt. So repping the DC today. I've just got DC in general.
Well, then you are repping the DC today.
I am
literally
repping the DC.
The letters D and C.
I am literally repping
direct current.
the D and the C. And Detective Comics. DC
DCC.
Comics. So, detecting a strange telepathic signal, Jean Jones recognized it as being from Mars, his native language. Using an Erdlgate, the device that brought him to Earth, he dares to hope. Did someone survive the destruction of Mars? But who should step through but Marvin the Martian? He quickly reveals that he's here to rescue Jean and help him destroy the Earth. His signal was meant as an offering to all Martians across the known multiverse. Marvin, or Marvin, reveals that in his reality, they tried to save humanity from themselves, but ultimately humanity nearly destroyed Mars along with their own world. Jean is clearly misguided in being a hero to these people. Seemingly as proof of their prejudice, people begin to blame Martian Manhunter when he rescues them from multiple crises that are all caused by Marvin's rampage. And yes, he does have the Illudium Q-36 space detonator at one part. Because you have to check that box. So Marvin begins his assault on a passing airplane, but eventually he goes to Area 52, which of course we just heard about in the Lobo story, home of many experimental weapons. But Jean won't give up on Earth, despite Marvin's insistence that they're a barbaric planet. While Jean failed to save his family, so too did Marvin fail to warn his people about Earth until it was too late. Marvin is desperate to save the Manhunter from these people because too few Martians are left. Realizing Marvin will never stop, Jean plants a permanent illusion in his mind that he's won, atomizing the Earth. Rendering Marvin docile, Jean puts him in holding with the government at Area 52. He also realizes that while he wanted a piece of his past back, what he really needs is to build something alongside humanity and make a new home. So kind of this is the opposite of the Porky Pig one, where this kind of has like more of a heartwarming up ending to it. So
yeah. And Marvin has a secret Martian name, Marvin. Like a secret Romulan name. Ryan. Marvin.
It was so funny.
Why did you say that name?
Marvin. To see Marvin introduce himself, but then mentally Jean is translating it to a Martian spelling of M''ARVIN.
Marvin.
I thought that was a nice little touch, because all we, what is it? What's her name? The white Martian that's on Young Justice. Her name is McGann, which
that's right.
sounds like Megan, and there's Jean Jones, which sounds like John Jones, so it would make sense.
Yeah, it makes sense for the Martians, and it's a thing they do, and it it sounds a little silly. It's kind of like Blackagar Boltagon, Black Bolt for short. That's a little
Yeah,
kind of weird, but at the same time, it's comics. It's what they do.
that's their
It's
thing.
yeah, it's their
Yeah.
thing. So it's kind of cool to see Marvin kind of integrated into that, where it's like they're both Martians and they do share, some common language and some common heritage, but they're very much different people, especially because Marvin is like uh, he's like a black mage. He has no actual face or anything.
Right.
He's just like a dark void with eyes kind of thing. And to see it kind of more played up for realism, not quite the hyper realism we got in some of the other issues,
Sure.
but still more realistic, it was still a little weird. I was like, what's wrong with his face? Like, what is that? Is it a mask? Is he concealing his true Martian face? Like, that would have been cool if Marvin took off his mask and he looked similar to Jean or something. I don't
Oh, that would have
know.
been awesome.
Yeah, that would have been kind of
They
neat.
seem to explain it by because they show a flashback to his Mars,
Hmm.
and it looked like it was all like Roman architecture and people wearing togas and stuff. But then they had those black faces like him,
Yeah.
and so I guess that's just what Martians look like in the Looney Tunes, whatever the Looney Tunes Earth is in the DC multiverse. This story, more than the others, seem to be hinting at like, oh yeah, Looney Tunes characters are just coming from another reality in the multiverse,
Hmm.
and so there's another Mars out there, and that's where Marvin the Martian is from. But then they added like the same tragic element to his backstory that Jean has, which I thought was interesting because what it allowed Steve Orlando, the writer, to do was to actually veer them off into like opposing viewpoints when they've experienced almost the same thing. And I was like, well, that's cool because now they're kind of coming from the same place, but they have an ideological disagreement with each other.
Yeah. Well, and
So
you also get some of that too, where Marvin starts to make Jean doubt a little bit to the point where even the soldiers who see Marvin attacking them sees Jean trying to stop him, but they think that they're together and they're like, oh no, shoot both the aliens. They're coming after us. And so it was kind of like, see, the thing that they love to
right.
see more than a hero is to see him fail, die trying. It's like as much as they love you now, soon they will hate you. It's that Green Goblin speech and trying to get John to be like, see, it's true. The humans do need to be wiped out. Destroy all humans.
Yeah, I mean it was cool that they actually had him have that moment of doubt and everything. And I think that this story works specifically because we're setting it in the post Flashpoint DC universe.
Mm.
I think he was a more established hero before Barry screwed time or whatever he did. And he was more kind of accepted, but really since Flashpoint, a lot of like multiple writers have played up the fact that Sean is an alien. His normal form doesn't look anything like a human. He's a shapeshifter. People don't trust him. He can read minds. That also makes people not want to trust him because he can just like jump into their thoughts whenever he wants to. And so they've really been leaning into with like multiple story arcs at DC how alien and different and strange he is and how that kind of like makes him an outsider. So
Yeah.
it was cool to see those story threads picked up and then just sort of organically worked into this story where now Marvin is going to come and he's going to make him question himself again. Like, man, do I even really have any business being here on Earth? And I thought for like a Looney Tunes crossover comic, I was like, they're actually doing good character development for him, which is really surprising.
Yeah, I was like, I kind of want to learn more about Marvin and, his past and what his world was like and, kind of see that angle and then, more to him than just like, I just want to blow up the planet because that's just what I
Right.
do, but like his actual motivation and then, see some character development of like, does he slowly learn to try to trust humanity through Jean's eyes, but he can never really acclimate because he just has that deep-rooted distrust. And so he seems calm, but then he takes out his blaster and he vaporizes something or, like this could kind of continue on if we were going to integrate Marvin into the DC universe. Like I could totally see this being like not just a crossover, but like we're going to cross over and keep this character for a while and kind of see, until maybe eventually we realize it's just so different that we have to rebuild the Etzel or Ethelgate or whatever it was
Erdl.
called.
Erdl.
Myrtle?
It,
Myrtle?
it was like a Dr. Erdl that. So the way Jean reaches Earth is not like it is in the Justice League cartoon in the comics. It's basically there was some guy that invented this device called an Erdl gate, and he's like, oh, there's a being on the other side, and he teleports him through, and it's Jean. And Jean was teleported right as his planet was dying around him. So he's the only person that lived. And yeah, there's like more stuff that goes on with that, but that's pretty much his backstory. So it's called an Erdl gate because that's the name of the the doctor that invented the gateway or whatever. So this is all it's all really well done, and it's all kind of weaved in a way that it makes sense for Marvin and for Jean, which made it really satisfying. In fact, I got to the end of this and I was like, I wish that this was actually a canon story, because especially having read like Justice League of America and Justice League United, and I think Stormwatch was another title that Jean was in. There were all these books that he was a part of. They just kept playing up. Look how alien he is. Look how strange he is. He'll never fit in. Yeah. And I really like his turn in this story where he's like, you know what? Maybe I don't fit in, but I'm going to try and build something here anyway. And I was like, that would be such a great launching point for now let's have his own book and, see where that goes. So it really sucks that this was just a Looney Tunes one-off, because I actually probably enjoyed this one the most, honestly, as far as just seeing it do good character work and sort of justify its existence.
Yeah, and you sort of get that additional depth of Jean's struggle, because now you have a character who kind of embodies the darker parts of that struggle. So Jean is like, you know what, I understand that humans don't accept me, but I've learned to make it work. Whereas Marvin's like, I'm not making anything work. If they look at me funny, boom, we're done.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's kind of fun to see them play off of each other.
That Martian dog with the tennis shoes that he always has around. We didn't see that guy, but that's the only thing they didn't have.
Well, he didn't come through the portal, so.
But yeah, that's true.
Myrtle Gate.
The Erdl gate. Yeah. But yeah, this one was just good. Like, I don't know that it was even that funny necessarily. I just thought like, oh wow, Steve Orlando knows how to write good character work. And so instead of leaning into this direction, though, Steve Orlando gets a maxi series with Martian Manhunter after this, where he takes the character in a completely, totally different direction that has nothing to do with this. So that's kind of a shame, because it's the same writer. So it would have been neat for him to kind of lean into the same direction, but I don't know. I guess
maybe
he
wasn't
they wanted to,
allowed to.
Yeah, I
don't
know.
Do that too.
I think as a collection overall, the trade is very expensive. So if you're looking for it, probably don't do that. Probably just read the individual issues on DC Universe Infinite. Yeah. Yeah. Or even just hunt down the issues online. I think that's a much more affordable option, because I think the trade for DC meets Looney Tunes is running for well over $100 right now. So that's I don't know that it's worth that much money. I read these as they were coming out and largely enjoyed them, with the exception of Porky Pig and some of the story choices they made in the Lobo story, like you mentioned. So I think overall, if I'm taking this as one whole thing, I'm probably at like a let's say a 3.75 out of 5. I think it's not quite a 4, because there were some low points, but overall it was just a really fun experiment to see these characters meet each other. And there were a lot of really fun one-off stories. There's some that I think would be much higher on the scale and some that would be much lower. So But I think overall it was much better than average, and it was a lot better than it could have been as a crossover event. So
I would
7 out of 5.
I would agree with that. It's not quite a 4, mostly because not all of the stories were at that level. Some of the stories were kind of more at the lower end of the spectrum, and the stories that were really good still weren't quite like fantastic, but at the same time, like my score, when I think of a 4, I always think of, do I want to partake more of this, or am I kind of done with it? And so there were a couple stories in here that I was like, I might read some more of that. It's kind of interesting, but there was nothing that necessarily like really grabbed me. And there was definitely
Sure.
more of the stories that I was like, huh, that was kind of interesting, but a little weird at the same time. But again,
Mhm.
it's meant to be a collection of one-offs. It's not meant to sustain an entire universe. Although they certainly have the material to do it, and I think some of the ways that they could do it would be interesting. So I think my score is going to be a similar thought as yours, but a different number. I think I'm going to go with a
Okay.
3.25
Okay. Yeah.
because just because if I rated each one individually, which would be kind of hard, I feel like
Sure.
the average I would result in would be like a 3.25, where it's not middle of the road.
Okay.
There's
Sure.
definitely a lot in here that I was like, that actually surprised me. It was much better than I thought. But still, as a collection, it's not, it's just kind of its own thing. And it's interesting. And, oh, you
Mhm.
get to see the Looney Tunes and there's some kind of cool stuff that happens, but it's not like, oh man, you have to read this. It's amazing. So yeah,
Sure.
3.25 out of 5 bananas for me, which is still a good score.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And so you're leaning into like it's slightly above average, kind
Yeah.
of
Same,
like as an
same.
overall mark of quality. And I think for my 3.75 that Batman Elmer Fudd, Martian Manhunter, and Marvin the Martian, and what was the other one? Oh, and surprisingly, Jonah Hex and Yosemite Sam are probably the three that are kind of like weighting it in the more positive direction.
Mhm.
Although even the ones that were just like, the one Gail Simone wrote was just a fight book, really. It was just spectacle to see all these characters fighting. Even that, I was like, well, I paid like $4 for this at the comic book store. It was funny and it entertained me for 20 minutes. So sure,
I
it
mean,
was good enough,
yeah, that's really
basically.
kind of
So
what you would expect and what you'd want, and you got it. So, I mean,
exactly.
yeah. All
So
right. Well,
all
that's
right.
going to wrap up this episode of We Like Comics because they have no anvils. Oh, wait, I meant bones. Bones.
Darnation.
Consarn it. Make sure you head on over to our YouTube channel. Otherwise, the main man's going to get you. Boneless Comics Podcast, where you can watch the video version of this episode and check out our after shows where we discuss the creators from our reviews and dive even deeper into comic book history.
Yes, and as always, be sure to share your thoughts on social media at Boneless Comics Podcast or on Blue Sky Social
X.
or X
Oh, whoops.
at
That
Boneless
was
Comics
early.
1. Use the hashtag Boneless Comics Podcast to let us know what you think of DC meets the Looney Tunes. And we did just today get a comment about scary Star Trek in our last
Ooh.
episode. So, and it's not from one of our usual suspects. So you can look forward to hearing that addressed the next time we do an after show.
Nice. Well, while you're waiting for the next episode or after show, make sure you check out our website at bonelesscomicspodcast.com, where you can get additional information about us because we're awesome. And also you can get a link to our new Printify shop where you can order Mike's banana designs on t-shirts, mugs, and more.
That's right. And next episode, we're going to be taking a look at Magneto, infamous. I'll make him infamous.
He wants to be
Written by
famous.
Cullen Bunn. Cullen Bunn, who oddly is one of the only comic book writers that I've actually like sat down and talked with at length before. So
Oh,
this will
nice.
be interesting because I've actually spent a fairly significant amount of time talking to this guy at various cons because he comes to Kansas City a lot. So it's written by Cullen Bunn. It's penciled by Javier Fernandez and G.H. Walta and published in 2014 by Marvel Comics. So don't miss it.
Thanks
The
for
power
listening.
of magnetism.
Yes, I can smell that adamantium from a mile away. Poor
Does that
Wolverine.
magnificent metal run through your entire body?
All right,
Throw them to
well,
the back of the train.
and with that, that's all, folks.